which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend. I want you to notice this chapter of Scripture about the mighty man of Samson. And thinking about all that Samson did here, now he married this Philistine, and how he killed that young lion, and how he told that riddle to those people, and then went and killed 30 Philistines to give them the clothes that they had won, I guess, from cheating. But anyway, it was kind of strange to me. I started thinking about why in the world would God use this man and use him in these different ways. The only answer I could come up with is found in Isaiah 55, 8 through 9. Isaiah says this, God says this, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than your thoughts." We have a shortened version of that. We say what? The Lord works in mysterious ways. Right? The Lord works in mysterious ways. And Samson's life and the way God used him was definitely mysterious and strange. So I want you to see how God used this mighty man, this single man, to do a mighty work for him in these mysterious ways. The first mysterious way I want you to look at, how God used him and how God worked through his life, is found in verse 3 through 4. It says, "Then his father and his mother said to him, Is there never a woman amongst the daughters of thy people, or among thy people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel." First thing I want you to notice about how the Lord works in mysterious ways is he worked through an ungodly wife. He worked through an ungodly wife. I want you to think about this. It was of God, as it says there in verse 4, that Samson was allowed to marry this Philistine woman. God was going to use that for his purpose because he wanted to bring up an occasion against the Philistines. He was going to teach both Samson and the people that the Philistines are not people to be trusted. They are people that are enemies of God. So the first thing I want you to look at, the Lord works in mysterious ways, first through an ungodly wife. First of all, what does it says in verse 4? "But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord, that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel." So I put this down to begin with. The Lord works in mysterious ways through an ungodly wife. First of all, she was a part of the problem. She was a part of the problem because she was a Philistine. And the Philistines at that time, they had dominion over the Israelites. So God worked in this mysterious way and allowed Samson to be attracted to her, allowed Samson to marry her for this occasion that God had, to bring it up, to bring them against the Philistines, to let Samson and the other Israelites know, this is my enemy and they cannot be trusted. So he used this ungodly wife. She was a part of the problem. I want you to notice this, because she was used by God to show Samson the Philistines could not be trusted. God oftentimes uses our problems for greater purposes, does he not? It's oftentimes seen through the Bible as well. He used this problem of this ungodly wife for his purpose, and turning Samson against the Philistines. Oftentimes God did this throughout the Bible. Our problems turned into his purpose. One of the things is I want you to think about King Solomon. King Solomon was born, of course, King David's son. He was born of Bathsheba, the woman that David had her husband killed so that he could have her as his own wife. That was a problem. That was not a good thing, right? He disobeyed God. He did the bad thing, but God brought a good thing out of it, right, for his purpose. King Solomon, as Jesus even says, one of the greatest kings, most arrayed kings, one of the wisest kings, one of the wisest person known to man in the Bible. So Solomon was born, and God used that problem for his great purpose. Another we talked about in Sunday school last week, or 2 weeks ago, Moses killed the Egyptian in Egypt, right? Moses killed a man. How did God use that for his own purpose? Made Moses fled Egypt, and what did he do? He went out into the wilderness. He finally met his wife and his father-in-law, and God called him at the burning bush and told him what? He was going to be the deliverer of his people Israel out of the hands of the Egyptians. God uses our problems for his greater purpose, as he has throughout the Bible. And one that's another strange marriage to me is the prophet Hosea. And if you know anything about Hosea, God told him to marry Gomer, which was a harlot or a prostitute. And why did he have Hosea to marry this prostitute? As an example to show Israel how they were acting towards him. Hosea's marriage was a picture of both Israel's relationship with God. But anyways, God works in mysterious ways is what I'm trying to tell you. and he worked through an ungodly wife, and he works through our problems for his greater purpose. Sometimes the problems in our life show us that God has a greater purpose in them. Okay? So through an ungodly wife, first she was a part of the problem. Not only that, but I want you to look at verse 18 and 19, what it says here. It says, "And the men of the city said unto him on the seventh day, before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey, and what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, If ye had not plowed with my heifer, ye had not found out my riddle." I want you to notice that here, okay? Not only did the Lord work in mysterious ways through an ungodly wife, she was a part of the problem, but I put this down, and this is Samson's words and not mine. She was an unfaithful heifer, okay? He called his wife a heifer. He did that because he was mad at her because she gave away his secret. I'm not being mean. This is what Samson said, not me, not his wife, okay? But that's what he said. He said, "You plowed with my wife." And he had a suspicion that she had been cheating on him. And as verse 20 tells us, she had, and she was unfaithful both to him. And what did this do to Samson? It made him mad that he had this unfaithful wife. He said, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not known my riddle," he said. He was mad with his wife. But God used this ungodly wife, part of the problem, an unfaithful wife, as a part of the solution, as a part of his purpose, to show Samson that the Philistines were not to be trusted, they were not to be made peace with, they were the enemies both of God and of Israel. Kind of strange when you think about it. How God used this ungodly woman now. And like I said, I pondered over this and thought about it. That's the only thing I could come up with. God's ways are not our ways, are they not? God uses things differently, and God does different things throughout the Scriptures. So the Lord works in mysterious ways, first of all, through an ungodly wife. And of course, she betrayed him, and he lost his riddle, and he got mad at her and went back to his father. The second thing I want you to see about this, the Lord works in mysterious ways, is the first half of verse 6. First half of verse 6 says this, "And the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid, and he had nothing in his hand." I want you to notice that, okay? Not only the Lord works in mysterious ways through an ungodly wife, but secondly, through supernatural strength. Through supernatural strength. I want you to think about that. It says the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and Samson was made strong. And what did he do with that young lion? He ripped it in two. He killed it just like he'd kill a goat or a kid with his bare hands. When I think about this, I think about the Incredible Hulk. Anybody ever used to watch that show? Still comes on sometimes. But what does he do? He turns into this big green thing. That's what I see Samson as. Man, the Spirit comes upon him, and here's Samson. He's huge, right? Anyway, I have a crazy imagination, I told you. Anyway, through supernatural strength, Samson became like the Incredible Hulk and conquered this lion. So the first thing I want you to see about this, the Lord works through mysterious ways, through supernatural strength. First of all, the strength to tear apart the eater. The strength to tear apart the eater. That was that lion, as we see here in verse 6. The Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid, and he had nothing in his hand. I want you to notice this first thing here. The Lord works through supernatural strength. The strength to tear apart that eater, that lion that could have easily have killed him. Why did God allow him to kill that lion there? Why did God even allow the lion to come upon him there in the vineyards? God has his purpose in that as well. He had the strength to tear apart the eater. And it wasn't just a lion. It wasn't a baby cub lion. It wasn't an old lion that's teeth had fallen out and was ready to die. It says this was a young lion. The pride of the top of the pride that came against Samson, that he killed just like a goat with his bare hands. But I want you to see why God did this. I believe it was to build up his courage and his confidence that through God he could do anything. And the reason I believe this is because to King David, who comes later on, the same thing happened to him, did it not? He was a